Everybody vibes with the all-new Camry. A standard 225-horsepower engine and an available sport-tuned suspension provide the power and agility to take you anywhere. And to do it in style. With available features like the two-tone midnight black metallic roof, color-matched sport grille, panoramic glass roof, and cockpit red leather trimmed interior, the Camry has never looked better. And because every all-new Camry is a hybrid, it delivers up to an EPA-estimated 51 miles per gallon combined. Whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. Learn more at toyota.com/Camry. Hello, from Wonder Media Network, I'm Jenny Kaplan, and this is Womanica. This month, we're talking about adversaries, women who fought for their place in history, whether they fought to get to the top of their sport, against how society perceived them, or fought with each other to be champions. We're talking about women who broke barriers and sometimes did seemingly impossible or unspeakable things to carve out their place in history. This episode of Womanica is brought to you by the all-new Toyota Camry. Today we're talking about one of old Hollywood's favorite actresses. Her feud with Bette Davis is still remembered to this day for giving us some of the juiciest gossip in the industry. Please welcome Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was born in San Antonio, Texas, sometime around 1908. The exact year is unknown. From an early age, Joan loved dancing and was determined to make it as a performer. Joan began her career in entertainment during the Roaring '20s as a flapper girl, and soon after in stage shows. By the mid-1920s, Joan was signed to a motion picture company and found popularity playing female characters with rags-to-riches plotlines. She got her first big hit in the 1928 film Our Dancing Daughters. The following year, Joan married her first husband, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., the son of Hollywood royalty. His stepmother, Mary Pickford, was America's sweetheart during cinema's silent era, and his father, Douglas Fairbanks, was known as the King of Hollywood. While Joan had established herself in Hollywood, a new young actress was moving into town. Her name was Bette Davis. She'd signed with Warner Brothers and was expected to have her big break starring in the 1933 film Ex-Lady. But on the same day Warner Brothers made the publicity announcement for the film, news of Joan and Douglas's divorce came out. The gossip overshadowed Bette's premiere, and the movie flopped. After just a week, theaters stopped showing the film. And so, supposedly, Bette and Joan's feud was born. The next clash came in 1935 when Bette was working on the film Dangerous with leading man Franchot Tone. Bette was deeply in love with Franchot, but during production, Bette noticed that Franchot returned from lunch with lipstick on his face. Soon after, Franchot and Joan announced their engagement and married that same year. Years later, Bette allegedly said of Joan, "She took him from me. She did it coldly, deliberately, and with complete ruthlessness." While Joan once said Franchot thought Bette was a good actress, but he never thought of her as a woman. In the early 1940s, Joan parted ways with MGM and joined Warner Brothers, the same company where her rival Bette had been for the last 10 years. Joan apparently offered an olive branch by sending Bette gifts, but Bette would return them in the mail, refusing Joan's attempts to mend their relationship. Between 1945 and 1947, Joan stepped in for 2 movie roles that Bette was rumored to have turned down. She obtained Oscar nominations for both, and won one for the film Mildred Pierce.
You make me feel, I don't know, warm.
And wanted.
Then, in 1952, Bette retaliated by playing the protagonist in The Star, a film about a washed-up movie queen desperate to jumpstart her career. The movie was written by an ex-friend of Joan's, who'd based the protagonist on Joan.
Here is every woman who ever climbed the stairway to the stars, only to find herself at the bottom, looking up.
Can't you get it through your thick skull that I'm broke?
Bette was nominated for another Best Actress Oscar for her performance. Eventually, the two opponents were enlisted for the film Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. The psychological horror story revolves around two sisters, both former movie stars, stuck in an old Hollywood mansion together. Joan played the capricious, wheelchair-bound sister, and Bette played the envious, tormenting caretaker sister.
When I was on the stage, you had to depend on me for everything. Even the food you ate came from me. Now you have to depend on me for your food again, so you see we're right back where we started.
Why are you doing this to me? Why?
Doing what?
Making me afraid to eat? Trying to make me starve myself?
Don't be silly.
As the story goes, Bette only agreed to sign on to the film after the director promised her that he wasn't sleeping with Joan. Bette said, "I didn't want him favoring her with more close-ups." The film led to some of the two actresses' pettiest alleged behaviors. At the time, Joan was a board member of Pepsi, so Bette put a Coke machine in Joan's dressing room to annoy her. And during a scene in which Bette had to drag Joan off a bed, Joan purposefully messed up the scene and made herself heavier because she knew Bette, who had back problems, would have to do several takes lugging her around. In the end, the film was a tremendous success. Viewers flocked to the theater to witness the famous Hollywood feud on screen. This was the first and last time Bette and Joan starred opposite one another on a project. To add fuel to the fire, Bette was nominated for the Best Actress award that year, while Joan wasn't. But when another actress was announced as the winner at the Oscars, Joan took the stage to accept it in her name, since the winner hadn't been able to make it that night.
Accepting for Anne Bancroft, Miss Joan Crawford.
Miss Bancroft said, "Here's my little speech, dear Joan."
Though Joan hadn't won, she made sure to pose for photos with the award alongside winners from the night. Drama brewed around almost every aspect of Joan's star image. In her home, Joan was also a mother to 4 adopted children. But her relationship with her oldest daughter would later taint the image she'd built in Hollywood. Joan died of a heart attack in 1977. The following year, her oldest daughter, Christina, published her book, Mommie Dearest. It was a memoir detailing the emotional and physical abuse Joan inflicted on her daughter. Though 2 of Joan's other children and some of Joan's friends denounced the book, it was wildly popular. And in 1981, the story was adapted into a film starring Faye Dunaway as Joan. Over time, the film became a cult classic and redefined the way Hollywood remembered Joan. All month, we're talking about Adversaries. For more information, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Womanica Podcast. Special thanks to Liz Kaplan, my favorite sister and co-creator. Talk to you tomorrow. Everybody vibes with the all-new Camry. A standard 225 horsepower engine and an available sport-tuned suspension provide the power and agility to take you anywhere. And to do it in style. With available features like the 2-tone midnight black metallic roof, color-matched sport grille, panoramic glass roof, and cockpit red leather trimmed interior, the Camry has never looked better. And because every all-new Camry is a hybrid, it delivers up to an EPA estimated 51 miles per gallon combined. Whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. Learn more at toyota.com/Camry.